What's up, Western Oregon? Trevor Denton, Danny Vigil here, back, of course, with another edition of the TD Show. You like that name, Trevor and Danny, even though you get kind of the second billing there? Are you okay with the name and everything?
No, 100%. TD Show, it flows. It's smooth off the tongue.
Yeah.
It works for everybody.
Yeah, we're getting going. We got this thing on YouTube, on
Yes,
the
sir.
KVAL, KMTR pages. Got this thing going on Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. So we're excited to kick this thing off. We're going to get a new logo soon. That's definitely top
In the
of the
works.
list. So,
Currently in the works.
yeah, stay tuned with us. We got some big things cooking up. And speaking of big things cooking up, man, Oregon softball. What a fantastic weekend in the regionals, Danny.
Huge weekend for Oregon softball. I mean, you look at Ariel Carlson.
Yeah.
She, had that walk-off grand slam.
Yeah.
She, huge for her. She was 3 for 4 with 7 RBIs. The program itself had 14 runs against Arkansas.
Yeah.
I mean, this is a win that Melissa Lombardi wanted. All the players wanted. I think it was just such a huge, huge win for the Ducks. I mean,
Yeah.
yeah.
We were talking last week. We recorded last Monday right after Selection Sunday, talking about how, seemed like this team was going to host a regional for most of the year. That didn't happen. They ended up back in Fayetteville, Arkansas, where they ended disappointment. They ended in disappointment last year, losing to the Razorbacks 2 different games. Both of those games last year, Arkansas had these late pushes. I think they had 6 runs in the 6th inning. In both of those wins, and Oregon really flipped the script. It was a back-and-forth game, trading home runs, trading 3-run home runs kind of early on. And then that 5th inning, Ariel Carlson, she hits a home run. Oregon keeps adding on to their tally. They end up going 10-4.
Yeah.
She's back in the batter's box, same inning, and then launches a walk-off grand slam, like you said, to run rule the Razorbacks. And that's poetry, man. That's what sports are about. The same place that you have your season end prematurely the year before, you end up celebrating it and having a Gatorade bath in the very next year. So let's kind of hear from the team what they said after that big regional final win over Arkansas.
To be standing on that field and not getting what we wanted, but then to hear our name called and for us to come back here, it was a part of our journey, and we accepted it. I can't say enough how proud I am of our team.
We've been talking about a quote all weekend, and it's fate happens so redemption can follow. And I think ending last season with tears of sadness and, coming back here and then being on that same field with tears of joy was the way it was supposed to happen, and couldn't have written it better myself.
I grew up being a Duck. I was a Duck before I even started playing softballs, and that I'll be a Duck when I finish. I will always love this university, and yeah, that's all I really have to say. It's just one of the best feelings.
Yeah, so that's an emotional team after that win. You can really tell how much it means to the program. Ariel Carlson, a Eugene kid,
Yes.
Marist Catholic,
Yeah.
born and raised, talking about how much it means to her to be a Duck. Really cool to see that. I love that quote, fate happens so redemption can follow. That's what Tara McGowan, ever the philosopher, said after the game. I want to get that tattooed somewhere. Fate happens so redemption can follow. I mean, that's an emotional quote.
I mean, this is like a storybook. This is something you see in a movie, honestly. I mean, it's huge for Oregon. It's their first Super Regional since 2018. Yeah. It's the first for Melissa Lombardi. I mean, like you said, a year ago before, they were back where they were at against Arkansas. But now, like you said, they flipped the script. And, I mean, now they're going to be facing OK State in the Stillwater Super Regional. That's going to be a really exciting game. They played them earlier this year in Mexico, Puerto Vallarta Invitational.
Yeah.
They lost to them 0-3. But I'm excited to see what they do this next time when they play against them.
Yeah, it's going to be a real difficult task. Both these Oklahoma schools, Oklahoma is going for 3 in a row. The Sooners are. Oklahoma State, their Stillwater rivals, are elite as well. I mean, really crazy record. They've gone on a tear all year, like you mentioned, already have beaten the Ducks. So this is going to be an uphill battle, but best 2 out of 3 series. Once again, you want to take game 1 just like they did in this regional. Taking it to Notre Dame in that first game was kind of huge. So I think they've got a chance. I think it's going to be very, very difficult. But I think what we've seen from this team already in the regionals, and I think we already knew this, but it's being kind of, I guess, reinforced to us, is that they're resilient. They're able to come back. I think that comes from experience. They're able to go down 4-1 in the 3rd and respond with a home run in the 5th. Like, they're never really truly out of it. I think that comes from experience. This is a very Older group, I mean, Allie Bunker's already been drafted professionally, you know,
Yeah.
she's still playing. Tara McGowan's been around the block for a while. Carlson's been a staple of this team. So I think you're not seeing a one-year team. This isn't something that happened overnight. This has been building under Missy Lombardi this entire time. This feels like the culmination. This is what they've been waiting for, what they felt like their destiny was last year that didn't quite happen. So I like this team. You know, they kind of limped into the postseason. We were talking about that last week, you know, how they kind of limped in a little bit, losing some games they maybe shouldn't have towards the end, getting swept by Utah. And a lot of those Pac-12 teams still floating around. I think there's 3 Pac-12 teams still left. So Pac-12 softball is ridiculous. I think they went through the gauntlet all year long, and they saw the fruits of that difficult schedule pay off in this regional, going undefeated too. I mean, you don't see that too often in a double elimination format. They didn't lose a single game. They didn't really make this very dramatic. They said, you know, we're closing this thing out from the get-go. We're not going to go to that second game later in the day, because if they had lost to Arkansas, they would have had to play another one at 4:30. I feel like then the momentum is all in the hands of the host school. They're at their home park. They pick up an emotional win to force a game 2. Then I feel like the Ducks would have had their backs against the wall, but they said, no, we're ending this on your home turf. We're ending this right now. So I thought that was a really, really, really spectacular win by Oregon, and really good for the program. That series will start Thursday. Best 2 out of 3 in enemy territory again.
Yeah.
What do you think? You got a prediction for this?
You know, I mean, we've seen it from the Ducks again. They have their backs against the wall. They're going to be, again, in enemy territory.
The underdogs for sure.
100%. But I think they're going to shake things up again. I mean, we'll see what they do with OK State. But, I mean, like you said, they have a veteran squad. This, like you said, it didn't happen overnight. So I think really they have all the pieces together. They have the coach. They have the players. And I think they can really do something against OK State. And I think they can eventually maybe punch their ticket to the World Series.
That would be incredible. Been a while since that's happened for Oregon. Obviously hasn't happened under Missy Lombardi. A college World Series trip to Oklahoma City would be special. Oregon State was kind of the unlikely one that got to do it last year. We'll see if it's Oregon's turn to punch their ticket to Oklahoma City. So, yeah, exciting stuff. Ariel Carlson, 7 RBIs, like you said, for the Eugene kid. Marist Catholic, represent. Go Spartans.
Shout out Marist Catholic.
Yeah.
I live right by there. I mean,
Yeah.
I haven't been to any of their sporting events, but I've heard they're studs. I've heard Marist Catholic, they produce some good athletes.
Absolute studs. Speaking of studs, we got the Pac-12 baseball tournament coming up too.
Yeah, in Scottsdale. Starts tomorrow. New format that we're seeing. It's the new pool format.
You know what? I am going to be honest. I looked at the Pac-12's website, and I cover this for a living.
Yeah.
I looked at the website for about 45 minutes trying to figure this out. I was like the Zach Galifianakis gif where he's like trying to do math in the air. I'm like, carry the 1, carry the 5. Like, why am I doing long division right now? First of all, I don't think we need to make things this complicated for a new conference tournament. This is only the second year. It's something you're trying to kind of market and brand. Make it single elimination, 8 teams. Like, what are we doing? I'm not sure what the exact goal is. I feel like you saw some of the positives, though. Why do you think that
Basically, the positives I saw was that instead of 8 teams, it's 9, right? So it gives that one team that one extra chance.
Yeah.
Where there's a wild card spot. And then the other thing was they wanted to prevent all those delays that we see, you know, in baseball. It happens all the time. So if you look at the pool format, it's 3 different days, and each day there's 3 teams in each pool, A, B, C, and then there's 3 games. So the first game starts at 10, the other one starts at 2:30, and the other one starts at 7. So there's like a 4.5-hour like break in between. So that was basically the big thing is they want to prevent the delays so these teams aren't going late into that. I forget, I think it was OSU last year. Did they have a game that went into like
it was like 6 hours against UCLA.
6 hours against UCLA. I mean, they went to like a Whataburger afterwards. It was a fascinating thing. I mean, it was the only thing that was open. So I think that's what they want to prevent. They don't want these guys to be going, you know, staying up too late, having, like you said, 6 hours. I mean,
yeah, because that wears everybody down before the actual NCAA championships. Like, that was the thing with Oregon State was like, do they even want to win this tournament and have to keep playing? I remember that kind of being the conversation last year. People asking Mitch Canham that because it's like, at this point, man, the arms are all that matters. Your bullpen, and when you're playing a 6-hour game like that, that'll hurt you pretty quick. So yeah, it'll be fun. I mean, I like a tournament play. I wish it was a little more simple. for sure.
I'm with you. It took me about I was staring at that screen on my computer like this for a good 30
I was like,
minutes.
I failed trigonometry for a reason. Why are we doing this again? What pools are we in? Are they indoor pools? Are they outdoor pools? Are they chlorine? Are they salt? I was like trying to figure it out, but it's gonna be fun. In Scottsdale, we got the Beavers. They'll face Arizona.
Yeah.
On Wednesday, right? Or do they play a game on Tuesday?
They play on Wednesday, and then they play again on Thursday. So they don't play in that first pool, which is Tuesday. Oregon will be playing, though. They'll be playing Cal, and then Stanford on that last pool. It's a complicated thing. We'll figure it out as we go. But, yeah basically, Beavers, they are the number 2 seed. Stanford's the number 1 seed. Oregon will be playing Stanford in that last day.
Yeah, that's an interesting one because Oregon had a lot of success against Stanford earlier in the season, really kind of stifled them, especially with Jay Stofall. Again, I mean, I feel like I'm saying it every week, but they really need that guy back. We'll see if we get an update on that. I like the draw for the Beavers against Arizona and Arizona State. I feel like Arizona State got off to a really hot start, and then they kind of tailed off a little bit. Arizona having a down year compared to their standards, only 30-23, and they're historically a very good team. So that'll be interesting. We'll see how much of a run they go on. I think Oregon needs this more than Oregon State. This the D1Baseball.com poll, which we tend to use, they love Oregon State. Like they're like 10th
they're
in that
10th.
poll. Took it to Western Carolina over the weekend. Still not sure why. That was their final series of the season. And everyone's like, well, you build momentum and you get these easy wins. It's like, yeah, but it doesn't help your resume.
Exactly.
I was looking at the RPI, Western Carolina, like I had to control find it for like 3 different pages, you know? when you keep having to do load more to get the control find.
There's paywalls.
I was getting Western Kentucky, I was getting Western Lafayette A&M, I was getting Western Tennessee, and I finally got to Western Carolina. So not wins they're going to help their resume, but they were just crushing it out of the park. 20-7 win on Thursday. So Oregon State ranked 10th in the nation in D1Baseball.com poll, so I don't think they need this as badly. I mean, I guess wins always help. Last year felt like they were more of a lock to host the regional, so it's like, why do they even need to be here?
Yeah.
Kind of like that senior going in for that last week of school when you're already done with finals, and you're like, it'll be fun to have like a little parade at the high school, I guess, but like, why are we here? A little senioritis. But I think it's a little different this year. I think they're a little more on the bubble. Oregon, on the other hand, they could probably use some wins in this. So Oregon, I think, will be in a position to take it a little more seriously. We'll be right back. We're going to do we teased this last week. We're going to talk some football, and specifically, we're going to be picking which units we would rather have this year between Oregon and Oregon State. And I think you might be surprised by some of the answers. Stay tuned. All right, welcome back to the TD show. Before we dive into which units that we would select between Oregon and Oregon State football, let's just start out. Huge recruiting string for Dan Lanning. May is a big month to have recruits on campus. They've been putting in work. Michael Van Buren from the DMV area, kind of a rising hotbed for recruiting. And, when you're in Oregon, not a ton of talent in this state, so you've got to get creative and recruit nationally. Dan Lanning, obviously, from Missouri, SEC roots, so he's going to dip into these regions to find someone. And he decided to get Michael Van Buren. Only 5'11", but he seems like a dynamic player for sure.
No, I'm excited for this guy, and obviously we saw this is a huge rebound for Lanning after missing out on Dante Moore over when he went to UCLA, and I think this is a great 5-star quarterback. I mean, I'm excited. Like we said, the height 5'11" is a little worrisome, but he's a dynamic player. He was great in high school. He's number 18 overall, but I think he was number 2 in pocket passing.
Yeah.
Right over your guy who committed to Georgia, number 1.
Dylan Raiola.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
So I think this is a huge move for Oregon.
They've been putting in work, man.
Oregon has been really killing it in the transfer portal this year. Transfer portal commitments. They are adding depth to their football team.
Yeah.
I am just really excited with this commitment. Yeah.
And then they got Zadavian Sims, big D lineman. That's huge because there's such a lack of those on the West Coast. But I will say, this is a really good class for California this year. I think California has been on the downswing, especially in terms of like producing big men. We've seen a huge downswing, long far cry from like the Khalil brothers playing for USC. it's been harder and harder to find these guys. So you have to go into an area like Oklahoma and steal some guys away from the Sooners like they did with Zadavian Sims. You're going to have to get into Oklahoma, Louisiana, Georgia, and snag a few guys and kind of piecemeal this together because there's not a lot of front seven guys on the West Coast. That being said, there's a trio of guys at Mater Dei right now that it's going to be an absolute war, I think, between USC and Oregon to get those guys. You have Brandon Baker, the number one tackle in the country, is a Monarch. You have to get those guys. It was like Josh Connerly when Lanning first got here. You saw the euphoric celebration in the HDC, the videos that still goes around. Like, the reason why he celebrated that harder than maybe other recruits is because O-linemen are so critical, and there's such a dearth of them even nationwide that when you get one, it's huge, and you have to lock those big boys down. They're going to definitely want to get this guy, Brandon Baker, out of Mater Dei. They have a 340-pound interior lineman that's going to be a war between USC and Oregon to get. There's another D lineman, 290 pounds. So the West Coast hasn't been known for producing these guys, so you've got to lock them down when you do have a year. It's a really good class for California. 25 guys, I believe, are top 300 recruits, which is up from last year. So important class. They also got a receiver, right?
Yeah, just this morning they got Dylan Gresham. He's the third wide receiver to commit for Junior Adams in this recruiting cycle. Them getting his commitment, that they jumped up to fifth in the country according to 247 Sports in recruiting. So Oregon, like I said, they are making some real moves.
Yeah,
this offseason. I'm really excited. I think having another receiver already in such a really good wide receiver room is just another level. I'm excited.
Yeah, so they're fifth in the country in the rankings, far above everybody else in the Pac-12. And this is how Oregon has separated themselves in recent years, is recruiting. I did see there's been some interesting discussions about this on Twitter, about their recruiting compared to the rest of the Pac-12. I did see one fan kind of be like, I don't care about these recruiting. This is an interesting take. I saw a fan say, I don't care about all these recruiting rankings. We've had this for a while. We need to start winning games on the field. Like, we lost to Washington and Oregon State last year. So it's like, I think what Lanning has done so far is he's probably exceeded expectations as a recruiter. We knew that would be a strength coming from Georgia. I mean, all these defensive guys that are getting drafted from Georgia, Lanning brought in the lion's share of those guys. The Jordan
100%.
Davises, he was the lead recruit. Malachi Starks on a lot of these guys and getting them to come to Athens. He's getting these guys to come to Eugene. I think he's very committed to the state of Oregon. He's been buying some property, man. If you look on Zillow, he's been he's been going crazy with some purchases. So I think he's committed to Eugene, which is kind of the fear. With Oregon, they're kind of the Oregon's like the guy that gets dumped a couple times, maybe after some long relationships, and you're like, is it me? Am I the problem? Am I the reason that I keep getting dumped? They're a little scarred from these departures 100%. Of coaches, so they want someone that's going to stay. I think Dan Lanning wants to stay. I mean, it's bold to say, but with that being said, while he's exceeded expectations as a recruiter, there is a long way for him to go as an on-field head coach. There's a lot better decision-making that needs to be made. Too many onside kicks, too much Brandon Staley, I think, in his game, the Chargers head coach, and he needs to become a little more conservative in certain ways. So I'm interested to see his growth because, he's going to be compared to Kirby Smart for the rest of his career. The same way that Kirby Smart will always be compared to Nick Saban, Dan Lanning will always be compared to his mentor, Kirby Smart. Dan Lanning, before that Georgia game, said he wouldn't be where he's at without Kirby Smart. So within that comparison, Kirby Smart, I think, was a trash on-game coach his first couple years as someone that follows Georgia closely. Two examples. Terrible fake kick against Joe Burrow's LSU in 2018. Before Burrow was like him, the year before he was him, he was just kind of a he. He wasn't the him yet. LSU won that game, one that Georgia maybe should have won, in part because of that fake kick. A fake punt against Alabama the next year. Was pretty terrible. It actually might have been, I actually think it was the same year, SEC championship. They put Justin Fields on max protect on a punt. Alabama's like, Justin Fields is on a punt. It's probably a fake coming. It was direct snap. He gets stuffed. So Kirby made very similar aggressive. It's funny to me that it's the defensive coaches that make these aggressive decisions. Brandon Staley's like a great example of the Chargers. I think Kirby was very similar early in his career. I thought he was pretty bad at clock management. He just wasn't a good on-field coach yet, even though he's bringing in all of these incredible, talented players. But then you flash forward to this past year, the playoff game against Ohio State, and it's such a reversal. He realizes that Ohio State's probably running a fake punt that would have won them the game. There was like not that much time left. 4th and 1, 4th and 2. He realizes that they're in a weird punt formation, and he calls a timeout, which if they build a statue of Kirby Smart, that's what my dad always says, they're going to make it of him calling a timeout. So Dan Lanning is in a similar boat where the recruiting is going. He's got to be a better on-field coach. Any thoughts on that?
I mean, yeah, like you said, I think recruiting, I think he's just been killing it.
He's got it all
it's a testament to him and his coaches. You look at Carlos Loughlin and all the other guys, Junior Adams, so on and so forth. But I think, I agree, his on-field coaching, he's a first-year head coach.
Yeah.
Right? He got him to 10 wins. But I definitely think, he really showed in those games against Washington and OSU. It's like, oh, yeah, this is the clock management, some of the play calling, not calling a timeout when, and so on. But then you look at the flip side, and you look at that game against Wazoo, that comeback that they had against Wazoo.
True.
So it shows that he has these glimpses of being like a really, really, intelligent head coach. But like I said, first-year head coach, he's going to have his struggles. But I think overall, he had a great first season. Great first season as an
he
as
passed
a
the
head
test.
Coach. 100%.
I thought that was a fair comment, though, because I think it was the same thing under Cristobal. Not the best on-field coach, in my opinion.
No.
His offenses were very bland, very vanilla, especially with Anthony Brown. And even Herbert, I don't think they let him loose all the time.
And you see it now with the Chargers. He's ripping it so much. And not to go on a little Cristobal rant, but it's like when he brought in Moorhead, and it's like, oh, now we're going to have a flashy SEC offense. And it was still very much just
vanilla,
not explosive.
That pistol formation is gross to me. Running I've never been a fan of the pistol.
No.
Especially when it's like 3rd and 2, and you're in the pistol. It's like you're already you're back against the wall. Whereas Lanning's willing to get in that I formation. UCLA, he did an entire drive with Bo Nix's right under the center's butt. So it's an interesting time. So let's get into this. Let's get into we've already kind of mentioned OSU and Oregon. Let's go unit by unit. We're going to start with the offense this week and then go to defense this week. So to lay the ground rules, we're just going based on this year, which unit between Oregon and Oregon State we would rather have on the field for this year. So let's start with the quarterbacks. I'll kick things off. This was a tough one. All of these were secretly tough, which I think shows how close these teams might be in 2023. I like this exercise because it kind of gives a glimpse into that. But I thought this one was really close because Oregon obviously has the best of the 6 quarterbacks that we're probably considering in this. Oregon has the best one with Bo Nix, but that Oregon State room is maybe deeper. In case of injuries, you have DJU, you have Ben Gulbranson, you have Aiden Childs, who that I'm extremely high on, the freshman out of Downey, California. Here's the thing. I'm still going with the upside of Bo Nix. I'm still taking Oregon's quarterback room just because I feel like they have an actual Heisman contender, whereas Oregon State's guys are a little more middle tier, at least for what we know. So I'm going with Bo Nix. What do you think here?
Honestly, I was kind of in the same boat with you, man. Going back to it, when I was going through this, and I'm a diehard Oregon fan, obviously I went to UO, but there was a couple times I was like, oh man, the Beavers have the better room. And going with the quarterbacks, yes, the Beavers have a much deeper room. They, like you said, Gulbranson, DJ, and Childs. But with Bo Nix, like you said, he's a Heisman candidate. He had career highs in damn near every field.
Yeah.
He looked sensational. And I was the guy who wrote him off way too early. The moment he came here, I was like, oh, Bo picks. Making the jokes.
Good Bo, bad Bo.
Exactly. And I'm just like, at Auburn, he had his flashes, but I never thought anything really highly of him. And then you look at what he did at Oregon. He had a monster year. And like I said, he is a Heisman contender. He is 100% a dark horse for the Heisman. But that has nothing to do against Oregon State. They have a great quarterback.
So you're going to Oregon as well?
I think yes. Bottom line, I am going with Oregon. But that was a very close one to pick. I was really balancing it out. But
it's close for me as well. I think in the case of injury, with that caveat, I think Oregon State has better depth this year.
Yeah.
But I'm still going with Oregon because of the upside. Now, another very interesting one, the running back. So for Oregon State, you're going to have Damian Martinez. You're going to have the same room that you had last year. You're going to have Damian Martinez. You're going to have Jam Griffin, who I think is a stud. Deshaun Fenwick, big back. They can pick up the short yardage. I'm going with the Beavers over Bucky Irving and Noah Whittington. Now, again, it's similar to the Bo Nix one where I might like Bucky Irving, I think a little more than everyone else that we just mentioned. Very close between him and Damian. But since it's a little different than quarterback where everyone's going to play, I'm going with Oregon State for their depth. I think you could count on anybody. Even Isaiah Newell scored touchdowns against Oregon. I think it's a deeper room. I'm going with Oregon State for running backs.
I am just such a fan of Damian Martinez. I mean,
Great player.
He's a great player. He almost broke 1,000 yards. He had like 600-yard games this last year. He made freshman of the week 3 weeks, not in a row, but like 3 weeks. He had freshman of the week. I am going to also go with OSU. Mostly just because of Damian Martinez, but also like the guys you say, like Griffin. But I don't know.
Both rooms are good. Both rooms
are very good. Both rooms are very good. Obviously, you see that Oregon lost Sean Dollars. They lost Byron Cardwell. But like I said, I mean, OSU, Damian Martinez, he's just a stud. He's a freshman, and the sky's only the limit with him. I think he's going to have another big year, especially with the Beavers. 4 of their 5 offensive linemen are coming back. I think he's going to have, like I said, another huge year. Might even break 1,000 yards this season, Yeah. I am very excited, so I'm also going to go with OSU.
I think the top 3, OSU is a little bit better. But Oregon, worth mentioning, they have 2 4-star freshmen coming in that both should be pretty good. Jordan James as well is a good depth piece. So that might have been the closest decision. This one's not close to me. Wide receivers, I'm clearly going with the Ducks.
Same.
I think this was a weakness at times for Oregon State last year until Trayshawn Harrison. He got rid of some of his drop issues that he had earlier in the year. And let's just combine tight ends with this, I think, with wide receivers. But this room, I don't know if it's improved for Oregon State. They didn't really do anything in the transfer portal to bolster it. I am expecting a big year from Silas Bolden. We've been kind of waiting for that breakout year, and he showed moments. I mean, some spectacular catches. We'll probably be showing this one as I'm speaking right now. His diving catch against Florida. I had a great shot. I was like right there. You're watching it right now. I was right there diving out. He makes some incredible grabs. You have Anthony Gould back, who's an excellent returner, but the upside of Oregon having Troy Franklin, Tez Johnson, Trayshawn Holden, Chris Hudson, all those guys balled out in the spring game. I'm going with Oregon's room there. I think they have a legit Biletnikoff candidate and Troy Franklin. And Oregon State, they've got some guys on the smaller end. I don't think their room's elite, though.
No, and we pretty much have the same list damn near. But yeah, I mean, I'm going to have to go with the wide receiver room for Oregon. Like you said, Troy Franklin, Trayshawn Holden. If you want to combine tight ends, I mean, once Terrence Ferguson comes back from injury, he's going to be big. But also on that side, too, kind of going more forward into tight ends, I think Patrick Herbert is due for a big year. Yeah. I think if Terrence Ferguson is still out, I think we're going to see a lot of production coming out of Patrick Herbert.
Great blocker.
Lanning was saying during spring practices he loves the consistency of Herbert. He's really excited to see him play.
Underrated player.
I'm excited. I think this is finally the year that we see Patrick Herbert explode.
I like that take.
And then, I think it's going to be a big year for the tight ends as well.
Cool. Yeah, let's go. And Oregon State obviously loses Luke Musgrave, so definitely giving the tight end edge to Oregon as well, even though Oregon's room is a little probably more thin than they'd like it. All right, let's close out with the O-line. I think the most important part of any offense. I think the reason why Oregon was 10-3 was having so much experience, so many seniors. Yeah. They're losing that. Oregon State still has experience. Talaise Fuaga is going to be one of the best offensive linemen in the country. Jake Levengood, dog. Talaise Fuaga, dog. And they've got some good players. So I'm going to go with Oregon State for sure with the O-line.
I think Oregon State is
great coach too, Jim Holacek. Oregon loses theirs. I kind of factor that in, Adrian Clem.
Yeah.
So I'm going with Oregon State.
Yeah, I mean, you saw Oregon lost 4? They lost 4 of their guys. They got Jackson Powers. They got Stephen Jones coming back. But I just think Oregon State, you saw what they did last year. You saw what they did for Damian Martinez and just protecting the quarterback. And I think it's going to be big when it comes for DJ Uyunglele.
We got to get this right.
Whatever.
Play the pronunciation again.
You go Uyunglele. So Uyunglele. Okay. So
we will have to play it because I am butchering it right now. But I think Oregon State has a really strong offensive line, and I think with Oregon, they do have a really good one, but they have some newcomers coming in. They have some people from the transfer coming in. They have some veterans, so I think it's good. And they also have their new coach from the Patriots. So it's going to be, I think it's going to give him a couple of games to figure stuff out. Jackson Powers being under center is going to be definitely interesting. I'm excited for him, though, especially when Alex Forsythe went out. But, yeah. I think both teams, I was kind of torn. I was going Oregon State. I think for this entire season, I'm going to go also with Oregon State. I mean,
We've got the same list. We're gonna have to change things up for defense. Next week.
I didn't realize how much similar ours. I mean,
well, I didn't send
pretty
you
much the
mine
same.
until like 3 minutes before we started recording, so that's fair. But no, I think we're both pretty spot on. I do think it's worth mentioning that even though Oregon is losing 4 starters on paper, I think that's a little deceptive because you do have Marcus Harper back, who filled in admirably for Stephen Jones, who's also back. He didn't really play pretty much all season, Stephen Jones. So those are your 2 guards. Jackson Powers-Johnson in the center has experience. Josh Connerly, who we mentioned earlier, is a 5-star.
Yeah.
He'll probably be your left tackle, and he played about 200 snaps last year, had a catch against Colorado. Just throw that in there. And then you're adding a Johnny Cornelius, very highly touted offensive lineman from Rhode Island. So with that being said, not a bad room for Oregon. I think they're going to be fine. Alik Terry's inheriting a pretty good one. Those 4 starters lost are a little bit misleading, but I think with Mihalacek as the O-line coach, excellent. I mean, fantastic O-line coach for Oregon State, and then having those starters back, still giving them the edge. All right, we're going to see if I could speak here. We're going to leave that in just to, expose me a little bit, see if I can learn how to speak again. But we're going to hit a quick break, and then when we're back, we're going to talk some NBA playoffs and get out of here. So stay tuned. All right, Danny, welcome back, first of all, to the viewers. But you've been wearing a Lakers hat around the office. Tell us why. Why isn't it on right now? I think it should be on right now.
It should be on right now, but our coworker Ronald Clark is not in the building, so I am hiding and not wearing the hat for right now. But basically, we made a bet. The Warriors played the Lakers. Whoever won that series would have to wear the opponent's hat. Obviously, the Warriors lost. So I've been wearing this Lakers hat, but ever since that photo it's on our coworker's Ron Clark's Twitter. There's a photo of me wearing the Lakers hat, and ever since that photo has been released to the public, the Lakers have lost since. So I'm just saying.
You think Ronald cursed himself?
I think Ronald cursed himself. I think I am a curse on the Lakers franchise, which is good because I absolutely despise the Lakers organization, everything about them. I am so glad that they're down to the Denver Nuggets. I'm the world's biggest Denver Nuggets fan right now. I mean, it's unreal. And then, I don't know. I just, I hate the Lakers.
So you've been wearing the hat, but you think that that's actually been a positive for you?
It has been a positive, like I said. I mean, they haven't won a game since. LeBron's looking old.
Dude, he has been bricking three-pointers.
Yes, he has. And
he's been bricking three-pointers.
He has, and I don't know why they just keep leaving D'Angelo Russell in the game. I mean, it's I don't know. It's an interesting thing. But then I'm also excited seeing the Celtics also being down. Yeah. I love Jimmy Butler. This Miami Heat team is so much fun to watch.
They're cool.
I love Eric Spoelstra, so I'm excited for this, hopefully, Nuggets Heat.
I think we're getting it. I think we're pretty sure we're getting it. Both up 3-0 as of this recording. Could be an entertaining NBA Finals. I don't have a dog in the fight. I'm a huge Atlanta Hawks fan. Obviously, they got bounced out pretty early in this postseason by the Celtics. So I think I'm going for KCP, a Georgia Bulldog, for the Nuggets. I think I'm rooting for him, and I'll be rooting for Denver. I got a good friend that roots for Denver as well. So we'll probably get Heat Nuggets as the final series. Ronald Clark, poor guy, he's been screaming at the TV. This is the annoying thing about fans of teams like the Yankees and Lakers that have won a lot of rings. He's sitting there in the office like, it's so hard to be a Lakers fan. Boo-hoo. Hawks haven't won since they were in St. Louis in 1955.
This guy also has a Philadelphia Eagles lunchbox, so I don't know what his affiliation was with Philly, but I'm sure when we have him on the pod, we will actually explain what his allegiances are and why he's also a Phillies fan.
I'm excited to have him right here in the middle because these guys go at it, so maybe we'll have him on pretty soon. But thanks for tuning in. Oregon softball going to get going in these super regionals. That's going to be a lot of fun to watch as they try to punch their ticket to the College World Series and the Pac-12 Baseball tournament. So fun times here in Eugene, and maybe when USC and Oregon play November 11th, we can make a little bet over some hats. I don't know. I've never worn any Ducks gear purposely. Never worn anything Ducks related. So
I can see you looking good in some green and yellow.
I don't know if it's my color. I think the cardinal and gold would really bring out your eyes.
I wouldn't say it's gold, more of a mustard, but we'll talk about that on a different day.
That's absolutely ridiculous, what you just said. That sent me over the edge. All right, we're over on time, so we'll see you next week for another edition of the TD Show. Goodbye.